Hey everyone, welcome back to another tutorial. Today I'm going to be doing off-world trading tutorial. This is going to be just a generic tutorial, more like tips and tricks of all the things you should sort of know, or you should know, or you will learn to know. So, first thing is first, when you do start the game, you actually get to scan all the things you do. So make sure that you scan out the land properly before you actually place down the type of whatever player you'd like to play. So expansive, robotic, scavenger, and scientific. Now, to keep it simple, technically all of them, all the type of, I don't know what the hell, I forgot the word, or whatever, all the types of classes that you can choose from, all use one main thing, is steel to upgrade your bases. That's why most of the players, always the moment they actually start to build, they always focus on getting steel, which means you're looking for iron to get the steel, except the scavengers. The scavengers need the carbon. Now, this is just, again, a generic sort of tips and tricks, so a generic tutorial in terms of how to play it. I'm not going to go into in-depth, not in this tutorial at all. So generally, when you are going to be building any expansive, robotic, or scientific, you're always going to go, or you should always look for iron to get your steel going, because you're going to need to upgrade your actual base, your actual home base. And I'm going to ask, why are you going to be upgrading your home base? Well, the end game pretty much so far, because it is still in open alpha. I don't know what's going to happen at the end, but I presume it's going to be along the same lines. The end game of this game is to shoot your interplanetary transport, or off-world trading. It's you shoot rockets to trade to get money, because that gives you the most money off-world. And everyone is trying to get to that as quickly as possible to win. Of course, you can win other ways, but at the end of the day, as everyone expands, the stock prices of everyone becomes ridiculously expensive, and the only way to make the same amount, or a large amount, enough of money to be able to buy another person's stock price, is by being able to buy them out and to have enough money. Of course, you can manipulate stock prices and do a million other things, but it does turn out to be a bit tiresome, especially when you're going up against 2 or 3 players who are very well founded, and you really need copious amounts of money. And the only way to get those copious amounts of money is with off-world trading. So technically, the end game, or some way that the focus or your target is to get to the off-world trading expansive as fast as possible, so you can shoot off those rockets into space and send those resources into space and get as much money as possible. Now, in terms of how those resources work, first let me scan all the stuff off, and then I'll get right back to it. Here we are. I finally placed down my base. So how does the economy work? Well, it works on, there's somehow 2 economies, think of it this way, 2 completely split economies. You have the standard economy, which is your money. You can buy, of course, and sell anything, plus and minus. And of course, you see currently on the left side, anything that's negative that's what you're technically paying for, because automatically this is being consumed. So in case you have a 0, this is being consumed. So you have the auto buy on, and it keeps buying the resources required. So anyways, you can buy you can buy and sell stuff. Of course, it affects the stock price, and when you buy and sell stuff, it affects your funds itself. Now, you have think of it as secondary currency or debit currency, and that you can do various stuff off. You can buy auctions with it. You can mainly you buy off a lot of you buy auction stuffs with it, and of course that goes into your debit. Now, the debit, of course, affects your stock price. So the more debit you have, your stock price gets lower and lower and lower. And of course, what I mentioned before, the end game is everyone's trying to buy you out, and of course you have very expensive stock price. So if you have a lower stock price, it means I can buy you out much cheaper and much faster. So you do want to keep your debt in check sometime, because it does affect your stock price, and at some point your stock price will be completely shite, and I can buy you out very, very quickly. So that being said, this is just a general drift of how the economy works. Now let's get down to placing down your HQ. If you place down your HQ over the tiles themselves, you actually pick up all those resources, and the resources disappear. You don't continue to gain from those resources. If you're scientific, you get double the amount of resources from the actual placement of your HQ. So I didn't, of course, place it on the HQ, but in case you do this, again, this is a more in-depth strategy, but we'll get into that in a different tutorial. In case you do decide to place it over the actual resources, you'll directly harvest them. Think of it as a start bonus. Okay, of course, make sure don't place them over the resources you want to farm. That's obvious logic here. So if you want to farm something long term, place it beside it or place it here, and like that you still have the 2 resources that you can continue to farm the resources off in long term. Now, the moment you place your HQ, there's a few things to keep in mind. The moment I place my HQ and I start to actually claim, you have 3 claims here, which I already used. I put two here and another one here. The moment you have the moment you place down your HQ, you actually get claims. And as you upgrade your HQ, if you move your mouse over it, you see the next HQ requires, as I said, aluminium, steel, and glass as well. Glass generally you can buy. Glass get expensive generally later on mid-game. You start to produce glass. In the beginning you usually buy it, but as I said, everyone focuses on aluminium and steel in the beginning, except the scavengers. They require carbon, of course, to upgrade. So everyone's obviously in a rush to get there as quickly as possible. Now, I forgot exactly what the hell I was saying now. My thought just went. Yeah, now I remember. So the claims themselves, you get 3 of them. You can, of course, click directly the claim. The moment you left-click the claim, you can click on the resource itself. That actually allows you to reserve that plot of land and no one else can take it. It prevents you, instead of building directly a mine on a claim, you don't need to build a mine on a claim directly to actually reserve it. If you want, you can just click on the claim itself and click that. Now, another thing in terms of figuring out how, the strategy of how and where you want to build your stuff, you got to consider this. If I build stuff away, not connected to my base itself, it requires transport. I actually get blimps moving to it and it transports it, and I actually have to pay for the transport and fuel. But if I actually build the plots right beside the HQ themselves, I don't spend the fuel required for transport. So that's again something to keep in mind, something to keep some sort of strategy also for you to think about. Of course, the disadvantage is if you have all the things connected to your HQ and literally all the buildings connected to it, we can use the black market and I can EMP all the stuff and you're pretty much screwed for a couple of seconds. So, but we'll get into the black market a little bit later on. Now, another thing as well to keep in mind in terms of placing your actual blocks, let me unpause it now. It's paused now, it's unpaused, is if I actually place another steel, I do believe there's 2 steel. If I do place, I already placed 2 beside each other.
Colony founded.
If I place the 3rd one here, it would actually give me a bonus. I should have showed you guys, but it's fine. I guess you guys can imagine. If I place another one here, it'll give me already 100% bonus. If I place, this is the cool thing, when you place the same blocks beside each other, it gives you bonuses, 50%, 100%, 150. It goes all the way, I believe, to 300%. Now, you're going to think, oh, that's great, I'm going to do it. No, it's not really. At 300%, you're producing so much that you're literally flooding the market. So you're rarely going to go more than 3 blocks beside each other like I have here. I have 2. I might go to 3. Usually it's around 2 to 3, you know. Sometimes you might commit in the late game and you will actually have 1 block of, I don't know, 5 things close to each other, as you're committed to that, as you're exporting that to the off-world markets. So, in terms, I don't know if I mentioned this, I might have forgot. Now, of course, the further away that the claim is, so for example, if I decide, oh, this is great, I'm going to build a water farm here. The problem is that it's quite far away, or let's say here, it's very far away. So not only do I have a 3 block, which is great, okay, but it's not so great because I have it on the other side of the damn map. So the amount of fuel it's going to cost me to get that water here also should be considered. So theoretically speaking, when I look at the 3 there, it's great, but I got 1 here, and it's right, and it's stuck to my base. So if I pull the water farm here, it'll actually give me directly the water without even the cost of transport, and I have it immediately given to me, so I don't have to wait for the blimp to actually transport it, pay for the fuel, and wait for it to get here. So again, you got to sort of balance it out and see what's worth it. So if I have, for example, like I mentioned, the water there and the 2 water here, of course I'm going to pick the water beside my base. Another example is if I have, let's say, a double block of water, somewhere. Yeah, but I have a closer single block. Let's say I have a double block of water here. But I have 2 singles here. And because scientific, I'm not really focused on water. But let's say the map, for some reason, had very little water. Yeah, this is another thing in terms of strategy. You got to see the most resources, the least resources in the map. And from that, you'll notice what's going to be highest demand and what's going to cost the most. That's obvious sense. So let's say if I had 2 blocks of water here and I have 2 single blocks of water here, most probably it's not advantageous to get the water here, because I know if I'm going to be producing water, if I'm going to put 2 waters beside each other, I'm going to get a 50% bonus. So technically they sort of outweigh the single double block. So keep that in mind in terms of placing your claims. I'm calling them blocks, but you know what the hell I'm saying. Again, you can bypass all that in terms of paying for the fuel for all the transportation. Later on, you can actually research teleportation, which is in the construction patent lab. You can patent teleportation, which means you'll have no more of these transports flying around, and you'll directly get all the stuff directly to your base, like as if you built it right beside your base. So, but that is, again, a little bit further away, so don't think that that's something easy to get a hold of, especially when you get to play the game. You'll understand what I'm saying. It's not so easy to get a patent of teleportation. You might be lucky, they might put it up for auction. But then again, it depends what type of player you are. For example, for a player who's building all the stuff beside his base, he really won't care about teleportation. Mainly you'll have people bidding on it, the ones that have a lot of, cost a lot of fuel. It's costing them a lot of fuel. They're paying a lot of fuel because they have a lot of claims, a lot of blocks all around the map, and they're paying quite a lot for just transporting all the resources to get to them. Also, another tip in terms of placing the claims or the blocks is that you can actually, when you left click the block, you can actually hold down shift and you can multiple click it. And like that, it means I can directly, let's say, take 3 blocks instantaneously without needing to re-click it again. So hold down shift and you can, with the same type of block that you have selected, for example, the fuel, I can place 3 fuels directly on the spot without doing anything else. Also, in terms of the shift itself, if I hold down shift and I go to the minus or to the plus, if I hold shift, if I hit minus, of course I sell. If I hold down shift, it sells by hundreds of units if I have 100 units. Or it sells in much higher increments. So if I have, I think, above 10, it starts to sell in 2s. If I have above 50s, it starts to sell in 20s. If I have above 100, it starts to sell in 100s or 80s. So if you don't want to sell one by one, hold down shift and you can left click the minus itself and it actually sells that stuff for you. Now, in terms of solar panels, in terms of power, you have, of course, the wind turbines, which produces wind all the time, but only 0.4 in day and night. And then you got the solar panels, which produce 1 power, but only in the day, of course. Don't forget you have night. And then, of course, you have the geothermal plants, which pretty much produce 2 power in day and in the night, whatever. But generally, they're a little bit rare, like you see here. They are a little bit rare. There's just 1 geothermal plant, and shit, I should have actually reserved it. I just went for 2 steel. And one aluminium. I should have took the geothermal plant because I had a crap load of aluminium beside me. That was very stupid of me. Well, I will pay for that. So now at least you know a different strategy in terms of using that, in terms of power. Now, mainly the disadvantage, for example, if I get the geothermal plant in the beginning, most probably I'm going to have a target on my head, especially when I'm playing with the AI, especially when I'm playing in such a map where I didn't scan the rest of it. But let's say this is the only geothermal power plant. It means this is technically the only stable income in the whole map. All the time. So I'm going to be a pretty good target, especially with the AI. They're going to use a lot of the actual black market things to actually mess with me and reduce my production of the power as well. Of course, if I reduce the power, if I reduce the output of anything, it actually affects the stock price itself, because it means that user won't be able to sell as much of that in the actual global market as well. Now, in terms of water, you have, sometimes you notice that there's like 2 structures to the building. In terms of water, you have the standard condenser pump, which you can place on the actual water tile itself. Of course, if you place on this 3 tile, I'm going to be producing quite a lot. I believe it's 2 units of water with the 3 blocks of water on it. Or I can do the construct ice condenser. The cool thing with the ice condenser, of course, you see it produces a little bit less water, half actually. This is... this can produce up to 2 because there's 3 blocks, and this will produce 0.5 all the time fixed. Now, the disadvantage of the actual water pump, it requires, of course, manpower, food, electricity, blah, 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 blah. But if I produce the actual ice condenser, and I stick the ice condenser on the ice packs, they're usually in the north or south, wherever the hell they are. Yeah, I'm not sure if I can place them here. Is that I don't actually pay for electricity. I don't pay for electricity to harvest the water. Of course, this only means that I can harvest water in the daytime again, because it requires the sun to actually harvest the water. So there is a little bit of a mechanic, a back and forth in terms of advantage and disadvantage every time you do decide to pick something. Now, for the black market, this is, and I've been watching quite a lot of plays, this is one of the most underused resource, even though it is one of the best resources to use throughout the game. You have a lot of things that you can do. You can buy an additional claim, which means I can place another plot. You actually get more claims when you upgrade the HQ, and you can do a lot of other nasty stuff to your player. You have the EMP, which is a nice circular sort of targeted thing, and it disables all the buildings for a specific amount of time. You have the power surge. That's very cool. Technically, if you have a user, he has, I don't know, let's say this block, and this block, you stick the power surge on the beginning of the block, and it actually moves down the blocks and disables them all. You have the underground nuke. This is, I believe, again, one of, not, the black market is underused. The underground nuke is completely underused. This is a very nasty, a very powerful thing to use in game, early game, and mid game. Is I can literally reduce and cut down the production of other people. So, for example, if I'm producing a lot of steel and I see someone else producing a lot of steel, I can nuke his ass, and instead of having 2 blocks on that tile, having two iron, 2 blocks, or 3 blocks on that tile, I reduce it by 1 block, and I reduce it by another block. And then, literally, at the end, I can even nuke a single block, and it becomes like a flat block. This becomes flat. And it means this tile is producing literally very little. It becomes literally worthless. So if it's a very nasty thing, if you have very little resources of something, and I see someone else has another resource, what I generally do is I nuke the living crap out of him until he gets nothing literally out of that tile, which means I monopolize it and I monopolize the production. But that is, again, that's a more in-depth strategy, and I'll probably do that in another tutorial in case you guys would like me to do it. So yeah. Oh, what else we got? We got the dynamite again. It stops the stuff. We got the mutiny. That's not bad as well. And then of course the goons. Also one a very strong thing to use. Goons. It protects the actual block itself. So the moment I put the goon on that block, it's protected forever. So in case someone decides to mess with you, it'll tell them it's protected, and the players can. I'm not sure if the players. I don't think so. That player will notice that that block is only protected. The other players won't know. So it's a very, very good thing to understand that this market opens up for everybody. Now, if you're the last person to place an HQ down, you generally get the market opened up earlier to you. I might be wrong here. But also, the last person to place his HQ down in the beginning of the game gets an additional claim. Now, that's quite a lot if you think about it. But of course, that means you probably lose out on the most coolest, most strategic places to place it. So you get an additional claim as a sort of advantage to sort of compensate for that. And now, generally what happens in the end game, you place, of course, the off-wall transport, and you directly stick a goon on it, so no one messes with it, so you can continuously guarantee to get that huge amounts of money that you need to buy out your competitor. Now, in terms of buying out your competitor and the stock itself, you can of course plus it and minus it. Now the more depth you have, of course your stock goes down, and of course the more money you have, you can actually buy your own stock to increase the stock price of it to make it harder for other people to buy it. And of course I can buy out other people. The moment I buy out other people, I directly have them. It'll show up here that I have, I don't know, let's say Mr. Stock, he'll show up here that I can buy out Mr. Stock. So yeah, and another thing in terms of the black market, every time someone uses the black market, the prices increase. So these prices always are going to go up. So the one thing, again, I don't understand why people don't do this. The moment the black market opens up, buy literally what you can. Okay, it's so freaking cheap. You know, it's so cheap and it's so good. And it doesn't mean that if I buy the dynamite now or the EMP now, it doesn't mean I need to use it. Obviously, buy the claim immediately. That's like cheap as hell. You know, buy the goons, you know. Use them later. You don't need to use them now. Using them mid-game, the 1,500 that I spent now, by stopping someone from producing glass mid-game is a very strong thing, especially when I'm producing glass. And let's say in that game, the glass is pretty valuable. I don't know what's valuable. It's always a different game. You end up something more valuable. So literally buying it early if you can afford it is very good, because you never know when you can use it, and it pays off a lot more. And don't be shy. You can of course use your goons also in the early game. If you know you have a very valuable resource, protect it, because of course other people are going to want to screw it up for you. They don't want you to make money off it. Literally what everyone's trying to do here is to slow you down from producing stuff to sell stuff. So you're messing with everyone else to slow them down to produce stuff to sell stuff, and they're doing the same thing with you. So if you can prevent them to slow you down from producing stuff and sell stuff, especially for something that you have an advantage with, that is priceless. That'll keep you in the game, and that'll keep you in the long game as well. Now, you get sometimes pirates. You can actually, the auction sometimes auctions off pirates. The pirates themselves, they'll pop up here that you can use the pirates. When you click the pirate, and then you'll see there's this sort of green area. That green area, those pirates will circle around that green area for a specific time period. I have no idea how, and they'll literally rip off any blimps going through that location. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to place the pirates either on a resource that you want, or just to mess with someone else, and they'll keep ripping off the resource till they collect 200 units. Again, it might change because this is open alpha, open access, so it'll change. But generally, if I have a lot of blimps going through this location and a lot of players or specific resources coming through here from my competitor, and I don't want him to get that resource, or I want that resource, I can stick my pirates here, and they'll keep sucking away from the blimp the resources until they reach 200 units, and then I'll actually earn those 200 units, and then they'll disappear. So again, that's a very underused thing to use, but it's pretty cool. In terms of now, to understand, I kept saying, I know the end game is the off-world market, but to understand how the game works, yes, you do build up resources, you do focus on it, you do try to see what other people are producing, and you do try to mess it up for them. And in terms of understanding how the market works, I realized, and it's a very nice thing that the developers did, it's the market fluctuates based on the players, And of course, there's a sort of third influence that I've noticed after analyzing it quite a bit. There's an actual third factor that pushes up and pushes down some things, completely irrelevant of what's happening on the market itself. So it's always nice to keep a trend, to keep an eye on the look of the market and move with the trend. If something's going up, start producing that, start selling that to make as much off it. You know, you will at the end you'll understand to read the map and read the players very well, so you'll know who's producing what, so you know what is generically moving up and down based off the players, and then you'll know what is the third factor that's being influenced by the third factor. That of course spices up the game a little bit. So if you can pick an eye for the third factor, you can make quite a bit of profit. So that influence is always something a little bit more, something a little bit down. So always move with the market as possible. Of course, you have your standard production, but try to move with the market. Always try to see what's profitable and try to move to that area. Okay? And again, doesn't mean that you got to stick to what you're producing, yeah? You got to scrap, you can scrap the stuff that you build, remove the stuff that you build, and start building something else that's profitable. You know, don't always think that the moment you build something, that you got to stick to it. No, not at all. Especially when you start to get to the middle game, you will see that some things that you have are not profitable at all. Doesn't mean you got to stick them. You're using a claim. You're using a whole claim for something that's not making you money. So remove the crap, build something else that's making you more money, and move on. So yeah, markets crash. So yeah, destroy stuff, build other stuff, move on. Get there. Get as fast as possible to the 5th upgrade. Of course, get those off-world tradings going and get going. If you realize you have an advantage in terms of one resource, you can always use various factors. You can use, for example, the hacker array. You can short the supply of something. It means the price of it, the price of it will be very, very high, and you can start selling that if you're the only one. You know, you can make some things very, very cheap. So if you know your competitor is selling a lot of or producing a lot of stuff, and you know his income is mainly based on that, you can actually make the price of that go down by using the hacker array. There's a lot of things to do to mess with your player. You know, there's also a lot of things to do to increase your production, such as the engineering bay. You can improve production of all of these. At the end of the day I don't know if this will change, the price of the off-world is pretty much sort of always high. It doesn't matter if you keep sending it stuff. I'm not sure if it's a fixed thing. I do believe so. It might change. I'm not sure how much it'll change, but not a lot. At the end of the day, the off-world prices, I realized, are not related to the Mars prices or this world prices. So I'm not sure if they will have a correlation or not, but it doesn't seem so far. And if so, I don't believe they'll be so heavily correlated. So what happens is, at the end of the day, is if I have 200 units of glass, and even if the glass is at $200, okay, a share or whatever it is, yeah, and I have an off-world going on, I'm not going to be bothered to sell it, even though the price is very high, because I'll sell the same resource off-world and I'll get a hell of a lot more. So someone else probably on the world is making more profit selling the glass, but still much less. You get probably 5 to 10 times more selling that same resource off-world. Again, of course, some things off-world are more cheap, some things off-world are less cheap, but generally speaking, you still make a little bit more profit selling things off-world. It'll be very interesting to see how the developers move, in what direction, or how they'll make the correlation. But yeah, it is a very complex game. I know it's quite a lot of information, but I try to break it down as much as possible in terms of the general stuff. And let me know what you guys think, what you'd like, and what else you'd like to, I don't know, what other tutorial you'd like me to do. Happy gaming. See ya.